Okay. Good morning, good morning, just in time. Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Sunday Assembly in San Diego. Believe it or not, this is our 27th ever Sunday Assembly in San Diego. That is amazing. Here we are, the jacarandas are in bloom, 11 a.m. on a Sunday morning. So glad to see you all here. Thank you very much. We're going to get right into a song, as we usually do, but first I want to make sure you know that we have a media-free zone, so if you do not want to be videotaped or photographed, please take a seat in that designated area there. And let me turn you over to the amazing Paul Svensson.
All right, good morning. So our theme today is death. I was going to bring my banjo. Steve Martin has a little song he does on the banjo. Just imagine I'm doing the banjo. He goes, can't be sad when you're playing the banjo. You can sing a little song like this. You can sing, oh, grief and death and sorrow and murder. It's true. It's all in your attitude. So, when I die, by us. Ready? I'll teach it to you. They may bury my body when I die. I bet you can guess where the next tune goes. They may bury my body when I die. Got it? Near some graveyard I'll be found, simply rotting in the ground. There's a nice low note for you altos and basses. Ground. If they bury my body, don't turn the sample, start up. Everybody got it now? They may bury my body when I die. They may bury my body when I die. Near some graveyard I'll be found, simply rotting in the ground. If they bury my body when I die, everybody smile. They may burn my body when I die. They may burn my body when I die. As that fiery furnace flashes, I'll be nothing more than ashes. Isn't that a great note? If they burn my body when I die. Now you're all getting comfortable with it, so I'm going to add a little harmony part for some of you who are interested. They may use my body when I die, when I die. Now you don't all have to do it, just if you've got an inclination to do that, just do it. They, from the beginning, they may use my body when I die. They may use my body when I die. As the doctors ply their arts, I'll be in 100 parts. And they use my body when I die. They may freeze my body when I die. They may freeze my body when I die. Though I may be well mistaken, I would hope to reawaken if they freeze my body when I die. Rock it out now! My favorite verse coming up. They may eat my body when I die. They may eat my body when I die. And if the zombie horde remains, they'll be hankering for. Let's sing that line again. If a zombie horde remains, they'll be hankering for. I'll eat my body when I. Well, I'd prefer to never die at all. I'd prefer to never die at all. No, no, no. Cheating death is such a rarity. It would make a singularity to permit we never die at all. Change keys. They may bury my body when I die. When I die, they may bury my body when I die. Oh, near some graveyard I'll be found. safely rotting in the ground. If they bury my body.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, we have it all at Sunday Assembly. Death and zombies and cannibalism. Yes. Well, welcome to Sunday Assembly. My name is Stephen Soden. I'll be your MC for today, and our theme for today is death. The opposite of that, of course, is what we do every time we're here, which is celebrate this one life that we know that we have. Sunday Assembly is a secular community that meets monthly to hear great talks, to join for community events, to sing silly songs, and to just generally celebrate this one life that we know that we have with coffee and snacks at the end, which we like to do every time. How many of you, it's your first time to Sunday Assembly? By a show of hands, could you please raise your hands there? Well, welcome very much. Give those people a high five. Welcome to Sunday Assembly. Thank you for being here. That is so awesome. Well, what we do, what we ask you to do, and this is for next time maybe, if you wouldn't mind, share with us something that happens out of your life. This is called Life Happens. You can see that in your program. We probably should have called it Death Happens today, because some of that's what we talk about. But we have just one Life Happens today that I'd like to share with you. It's okay if I say who's that from? Who's that from? Okay, it's from Alexis, who's sitting right over there. Her 8-year-old daughter broke her wrist again, and if you want to drop by her house and sign her cash, she'd love that very much. It's Layla Wesley, so we'd love to have you do that, and we can arrange that with you, because I know a lot of us would like to do that, just to say hi to her, because she's usually here, and she's not here today. Pardon me? And Leah got married, and she did not put that in here. That's right, Leah. Oh, you did? Okay, well, there was another box that got the one. Anyone else get missed there? Okay. Sorry about that. We obviously, our organizational skills on this one are not as well as they should be. We're going to start with a reading. Our reading today is Making a Fist by Naomi Nye, read by Jen McCown. Jen?
Making a Fist by Naomi Shihab Nye, from Grape Leaves, A Century of Arab American Poetry. It begins with a quote. "We forget that we are all dead men conversing with dead men." Jorge Luis Borges. For the first time on the road north of Tampico, I felt the life sliding out of me, a drum in the desert, harder and harder to hear. I was 7. I lay in the car watching palm trees swirl a sickening pattern past the glass. My stomach was a melon split wide inside my skin. "How do you know if you are going to die?" I begged my mother. "We have been traveling for days." With strange confidence, she answered, "When you can no longer make a fist." Years later, I smile to think of that journey, the borders we must cross separately, stamped with our unanswerable woes. I who did not die, who am still living, still lying in the back seat behind all my questions, clenching and opening one small hand.
Thank you very much for that, Jen. Okay. You're on. With a BA in anthropology from New Mexico State University, Brian Hougard has worked at the San Diego Museum of Man in Balboa Park as a docent and in the archives department, and is currently a state-certified administrator of elderly homes working in senior independent care facility. With his background in anthropology and his interest in hospice and our end-of-life care traditions, we're very pleased to have him here, Mr. Brian Hougard.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I want to give a shout out to Prince. He won't hear that. I want to keep going to that mic. He won't hear that shout out because he's not here, but he was great. I am not an anthropologist by profession. As Stephen said, I'm an admin assistant for a nonprofit organization. But I've continued to study anthropology. And when I went back to college many years ago, I saw these patterns and parallels. And basically, essentially, cultures were doing something and dealing with their dead, every one of them. And it just really struck me, and it stuck with me all this time. But I'd first like to start out with a little story. In 1995, I was talking to my dad, and we were I was visiting him in Fresno, and he says, "Brian, when I die, I want you to scatter my ashes in Carefree, Arizona." Okay. I was pretty young, and it didn't really register with me, but all right. And then a year later, he died. And it was so surreal. And then, so anyway, I drove up to Fresno where he was living, and my grandfather was there, and he was so worried about how much his funeral was going to cost. Oh, we're going to... And he had money, but it was just my grandfather. And I'm like, well, you know, Dad said he wanted to be cremated and scattered in Arizona, so maybe we should just do that. And he was like, "That's what we're going to do." And he was so relieved that we weren't going to have to go through this, pay for this casket or whatever. And we did have a service, and kind of an Irish wake, I guess you'd call it, but it's so hazy to me now, all these years later. I don't remember, but what I do remember is the trip to Arizona on a hot August Sunday, I believe. We made our trip back to Arizona with my uncle and my grandfather and myself, and it was really interesting. We went up to the Carefree Mountains, and we scattered his ashes, and he wanted us to have beer, too, so we brought beer up there. And I'll never forget, I was just throwing these ashes. It was windy, and this last throw I made, it all went back into my mouth, and I had to all I could do was open a beer so I could get the ashes down, because it was just so much. It happened, and yeah, it really happened, yeah. But when we went back to Phoenix, on the way back, I felt like something significant had happened. More so than the service that we had, because I don't honestly remember it that well. But so again, when I went back to college, I was thinking about that as I was studying different cultures and the way they deal with death. So with that, I'll start my survey here for you. It's Dealings with Death, a Cross-Culture Perspective. I found this quote a while back. I think it kind of sums it up. "The role of death is a means of mobilizing a collectivity toward unified action." You see that with different cultures. There's a group effort going on to deal with their dead. And that is done via a rite of passage. I'm sure you've probably heard that. Culture provides the means for moving through transitions in life via the rites of passage. The group ritual that celebrates and acknowledges a transition in one's life. Examples: birth, puberty, marriage. Actually, puberty, the Mexican culture, they have what's called a quinceañera, and it's when a girl turns 15. They celebrate that because again, it's a transition into adulthood. So you see this, it's throughout every culture. But the death ritual is also a rite of passage, and that's what I'll specifically talk about. Death ritual is a catalyst for collective action. It's prevalent in all societies because it's functional. It works, and it goes on and on and on. It's a coping mechanism. It reestablishes family and community ties. It reinforces belief systems, promotes symbolic order and meaning. It's a little abstract, but and reflects and reinforces the value system of a given culture. So it's multifunctional, and that's why it remains. These are some of the cultures I'll look at. I have a lot of slides. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. Again, it's just a survey. So I decided to go all the way back to the Neanderthals. We share DNA with them. I tend to think there was a death ritual that they performed. If you look at the archaeological record, there seems to be like a intentional burial. The ground was intentionally modified to place a body in the ground. And you also see that they've been carefully placed in like a flexed position. And so they were thinking about it. They weren't just discarding the body. Again, this is a pre-literate society, so we're speculating, but the record does suggest that there was symbolic thought, and they were influencing the event of death. That could have been a belief in an afterlife. We'll never know. But we see this over and over. We did in Iraq, in Shenandar site, they found pollen, and for a long time they thought that maybe they put flowers in the grave. However, from what I've read, they think that came later, like maybe vermin brought it in. It's still interesting though. Chinchorro culture of Chile and southern Peru. These are the oldest mummies that we know of on planet Earth. About 8,000 years ago, approximately, they were mummifying their dead. They had a very complex process of mummification where they would skin the body, eviscerate it, and essentially reconstruct it. And there are different variations, but what's really I find interesting about this is that they believe, the experts in this, believe that everybody was mummified in this society. So that tells you something, that it was significant that they practiced this mummification. There were probably ritual specialists who did it, so I don't think everybody in the community had that skill of mummifying their dead, but I think it was agreed upon by the culture that this would continue, and so I do see this as some sort of group effort. Let's move on. Why would they do this? That's the question. There's different theories. I'm kind of cherry picking here. There's been thought that in such a small population that just one loss would be so significant and so hard and so much grief. So a way to deal with grief would be one answer. They were kept near the community as far as I know, so there was probably some sort of ongoing psychological connection to these mummies. And with that, it maintained social memory. And there's also, I've read that they lived near the coast, and so they had abundant resources, and they probably had the time to do this, because this would take a long time to, deconstruct these bodies and put them back together. So it's a little grim, but it's what people did. They had rationale and reasoning behind it. We'll never know exactly why. It could be also a belief in an afterlife, some sort of soul generator, that if we do this, this in turn will happen. I don't know, maybe. Another mummy, this is the mummies of Papua New Guinea. Similar, bodies are smoke-dried in a hut and later covered with a red clay. And the whole idea of mummification is to stop the natural processes of decomposition, so they figure out a way to do that. Similar to Chinchorro peoples, there was like an ongoing psychological connection. They kept them near the village. And they were included in village celebrations. They would go up to be consoled by these mummies. Maybe they thought the soul was still there, something like that. But again, people did this. They dealt with their dead by keeping them near, the shell kept near. The practice was condemned in the 20th century, but from what I understand, there are people who are still doing this. And the Anga people of Papua New Guinea have been restoring these 200-year-old mummies as a way of holding on to that social memory. And so they're doing the practice again. So we'll see if they keep going with that. It's a very challenging process to mummify a body. But again, they're restoring 200-year-old mummies and including them in their lives again. This is the Hindu culture. I included this because I wanted to showcase a complex society. With a complex society, you see more complex death rituals. It would take me hours to talk about this, or it could, but they vary with sex, religion, and caste, and family, and they can be simple or complex, but by and large they're complex from what I've studied. And what's interesting is no one in the family, traditionally speaking, including children, are shielded from death. They embrace it and they move forward with it, through it. And you have a lot of support from family members and communities. And again, I'm generalizing, but traditionally you have a lot of people involved, family and people outside of the family. So again, you're seeing a group effort to deal with their dead. Traditionally, participation was a duty. I'm kind of using an example of a family who was in a higher caste level, caste system being a hierarchical class system. If they had the resources, they could actually have the body remain at the house for 12 or 13 days, and the body directly deals with that body, or I'm sorry, the family directly deals with the body and cleans it. There's a viewing for it. Friends and neighbors are expected to participate in this, and so on and so on and so on. You do see traditionally gender roles. Women are in charge of arrangements in the household, that sort of thing, and men are in charge of the cremation tasks, traditionally. There's also diet changes during this funeral of 12 or 13 days. I thought this was interesting. So people who perform cremations are of a certain caste system. They're the ones that do it. No one below or above them. Kind of strange, but it's, again, how their system is or was. Men bring the body to the funeral pyre, and they light the pyre, and that was traditionally done on the Ganges River in India. I think there are other waterways that they use now, and that they have used. And following mourning period begins for the family. So again, I'm just showing how there's so much involvement with the family in this example, because they're dealing with it. So again, you're seeing a web of people taking action, participating in the Hindu funeral. The emphasis is on taking care of the family and preparing the body. And again, the Hindu death rituals clearly reflect cultural norms and values, gender roles, family and community obligations, belief systems, and food. My favorite Day of the Dead festival. If you live in the Southwest of the United States, you know this pretty well. I did study the Day of the Dead festival and wrote some papers on it, and I will be talking about my own experience here quickly. As most of you know, it's a widespread public and private ritual performed throughout the Americas. People honor and remember their deceased loved ones. The altar is a major component of the Day of the Dead festival, and I'm going to talk about that. It's very commercialized. If you've been to Old Town, it's a lot of commercialized. That's the best way I can put it. A lot of t-shirts for sale and that sort of thing, which is okay. It's not as authentic as some of the other ones that I've been to in the desert Southwest. Traditionally speaking, like in Mexico, plans are made throughout the year, and the family and community members are very involved in that. And traditionally, altars have been constructed and placed in homes, graveyards, public places. If you go to Day of the Dead Festival, you might get a little piece of bread there you can nibble on, buy some to eat. There's always food at these. The altar is really central to me in the Day of the Dead Festival. It's really a way that a family can promote social memory. And you see that. I went to a Day of the Dead Festival in Las Cruces, New Mexico, where I went to college. And I'll never forget, I went with this guy and I said, why do you go to all this trouble? Look at this. His altar looked just like this. And he said, and he looked at this little boy and he went, it's for him. Okay. So, yeah, my son needs to know where it comes from. Oh, okay. And then he went on to say how it's a way that his family can get back together, reestablish ties, as I've stated already. And it was interesting. And I talked to some other families too, and they basically said the same thing, that our family needs this. And the altars usually have items that reflect the deceased loved one. This guy that I was talking to that was telling me how he wanted his family to remember his dad. There were a pack of cigarettes on the altar, there was gum, and there were just all kinds of things that reflect this man who had passed away. And of course there's the sugar skulls, which are very popular. That kind of reflects almost kind of a mocking of death, where they're kind of making fun of it. And I think that death is not separate. It's there. That's what it kind of represents. This is with us, and we're going to have fun with it. That's my interpretation of it. So again, it's functional. That's kind of my angle here, functionality. It's coping mechanisms and celebration of life. It's a way to see folly and humor in death. And it's a community and family-based ritual. And it reinforces and reestablishes community and family ties, that sort of thing. And social memory. That's me and my son. We went to the Old Town Day of the Dead Festival several months back, and we looked really serious, but we actually had a really good time. And so he's got his little Day of the Dead cuddle buddy. Commercialized, you know. Yeah. Ever been to an Irish wake? Anybody? Yeah. It's kind of a loose term for an after party after a funeral. I've been to a lot of Irish wakes, and they've always been at bars. And you talk about coping mechanism, the best. There is more. It's a loose term. There is a tradition in Ireland, but you can study that on your own. I don't have any information on that. But in America, it's a loose term for a party after a death or after a funeral. I don't know what's in that drink. I'm assuming dye of some sort of green dye. Kind of switching here. I was thinking about this secular death ritual, what that is. Does it exist? And so, looking back at my own experiences and going to funerals, I think what they call a celebration of life kind of falls into that. So I've been to these, and they're really nice. There seems to be more emphasis on the life that was lived, less on the hereafter or what's going to happen after this life. Less pageantry, but again, you see the functionality of this because you're seeing how social memory is promoted. You're seeing that it serves as a coping mechanism, and you're seeing individual and community ties reinforced and that sort of thing. But they're very enjoying. I've been to a lot of funerals, actually, now I'm thinking about it. And most of them have been this kind of celebration of life. Hospice care is a death ritual. This is something that I was thinking about when Stephen invited me to do this talk several months back. I work for the company that I work for. We have independent assisted living and skilled nursing. Skilled nursing will contract hospice care companies out. The hospice care company works with the nursing staff as a team. I don't work directly with that team, but I'm around it. I've seen it. And this is kind of my interpretation of what I've seen with hospice care. It's provided to individuals who have approximately 6 months to live. The focus is on care, comfort, dignity. And there's less focus on hospital bureaucracy and biomedical care. The focus is really a good death at this point. It's an interdisciplinary focus. An array of professionals work as a team to provide care to a dying patient. This includes physicians, nurses, bereavement counselors, volunteers, spiritual counselors, so on and so on. So this is kind of a little chart I made here. So you see all these people around this family and this dying person. And I see them as the ritual specialists, the team that works with this dying patient. And they're kind of the catalyst for action. And that action is basically taking care of this person over these final months. And they perform the last rite. So, amazing people that work in this line of work, I can tell you. And that's my slide presentation. I went through that really fast. Wow. I will say that obviously not everybody is going to experience this group effort or death ritual in life for different reasons. There may not be anybody around. That could be one reason. Second, there are people who just aren't interested. Maybe they grieve better on their own. I know that when my dad passed away, I had after that, we had this, desert death ritual, and I came back to Los Angeles where I was living. I did have that time where I had to deal with it on my own. And there is that too. Obviously, I don't have time to get into the individual with this, but that was beneficial ultimately to just be with me after he passed away. But I acknowledge that the death ritual that I had with my family was good. I mean, I reestablished ties with my family, who I didn't see consistently over the years. It was a coping mechanism. So again, there was always that parallel that I saw between my own experience and these cultures who perform these rituals. Thank you.
Brian, thank you very much. Thank you. Good job. I thank you so much for sharing about these cultures that embrace death as part of life. I mean, it's something that touches all of us and that none of us can escape. Obviously, it's one of the very few things that every one of us has in common. Laura's going to put a slide up here for a breakout session that we're going to have here on a topic that we're talking about today, which is death, and I'll wait for that. I do want to let you know that Brian will be available after the assembly today if you want to talk to him and learn more about that or his thoughts on death or the culture of death. Additionally, we have a breakout session, and what we do with this is we'll ask you to break into groups of, let's see, there's 14 spaces, so approximately 9 per group. There'll be one organizer in the group with you, and we're going to ask you a simple question to discuss, and this is it. What do you want done with your body when you die, and why? And does that conflict with any family traditions? So, with that at the end, please go ahead and break we have on the floor, we have some taped pieces here, so if you would, as you have done in the past, please go ahead and break out, and don't be shy. We'll give this about 10 minutes. This is Wesley.
We're off script. For 60 seconds.
Who is, she'll tell you why, but for 60 seconds, would just like to make a quick announcement about considering organ donation.
Hi, I'm Alexis, and I just want to talk to you real quick because I keep hearing, I'm going to donate my organs, I'm going to donate my organs. Oh, it's not on my license. So if you're a younger generation, California changed the rules and you can, you're almost automatically signed up, you just have to sign it. But if you didn't get in on that and you're a little older, like my age even or older, so not that much older, you have to go in and you have to get this done. So you can start online, DMV. You can sign up to be an organ donor. It's a pretty easy process. But if you don't do it, they can't use your organs. And I do have a personal story. My mom died when I was 19 in a car crash. And she had always wanted to donate her organs, but she didn't get that done. And she'd always wanted to donate her organs, and she died in such a way she could have donated her eyes, her kidney, her heart. She could have donated and saved 8 lives, and didn't. And it was a total waste, because they will not take your organs, even if you're perfect. So when I got older, my husband started getting interested in kidney donation, live donor. A live kidney lasts twice as long, takes faster, produces urine quicker. We have people dying from kidney failure in the thousands every year. And you only need one kidney to live. If they're going to fail, they're going to both fail at the same time. So it cost me 2 weeks recovery. I got free babysitting out of it. It was a momcation. And my husband also donated. We were undirected, altruistic donors that started chains that saved 11 lives. And we didn't know this until the day after. We found out as news crews poured into my hospital room and said we were the first married couple ever to both altruistically donate to chains without benefiting anyone we knew in the world, and that's how I ended up. So it's really easy to do. If you're interested in live kidney donation, talk to me. We partner with Sharp, who partners with National Kidney Registry. It's pretty easy to do. I've already talked to one assembler in the last week about it. It's short-term investment, 2 weeks recovery, and you can add 15 years to someone's life. And if you start a chain, that adds up. I wish I'd had 15 more years with my mom. So, thanks.
Thank you. And remember, you can also talk to Alexis after the assembly, because Kayla would love to have somebody come over and sign her cast, and she said today would be okay, so talk to her about that. I turn you once again over to the amazing Paul Svensson.
Well, this has been a fun assembly so far, huh? Everybody feeling alive today? I am, considering the alternative. Now, I didn't talk in one of the little groups, but I want to do what a friend of mine has requested, that her ashes be put into fireworks and shot off at a big event. And I grew up in Los Angeles, and we have a place in Los Angeles called Forest Lawn. It's a massive death industry, for lack of a better term, facility. They'll do anything, and I'm sure they would do the fireworks thing. I'm sure this is like nothing for them. Tom Paxton, who's a great folk singer and a very satirical, wise guy, wrote a song about Forest Lawn because there was a point at which they were really, really over the top. But this is the song. There's a chorus, and I will teach it to you. Oh, lay me down in Forest Lawn in a silver casket, with golden flowers over my head in a silver basket. Let the drum and bugle corps play taps while cannons roar, and 16 liveried employees sell souvenirs from the funeral store. I want to go simply when I go. This is your part, learn and listen. They'll give me a simple funeral there, I know, with a casket lined in fleece and fireworks spelling out rest in peace. So take me when I'm gone to Forest Lawn. Let's do that again. Ready? I want to go simply when I go. They'll give me a simple funeral there, I know, with a casket lined in peace and fireworks spelling out rest in peace. So take me when I'm gone to Forest Lawn. Oh, take me down to Forest Lawn, they understand there. They have a heavenly choir and a military band there. Just put me in their care, I'll find some comfort there. With 16 planes and the last salute, I'll drop across in a parachute. I want to go simply when I go. You're with me now. They still me a simple funeral there, I know, with 100 strolling strings and topless dancers with golden wings. Oh, take me when I'm gone to Forest Lawn. Come to the church in the wildwood. Kindly leave a contribution in the pail. Be as simple and as trusting as a child would, with a big checkbook, and we'll sell you the church in the Vale. To find a simple resting place is my desire. To lay me down with a smiling face comes a little bit higher. My image cast in brass will stand in plastic grass, while hidden weights and strings tip my hat to the mourners filing past. I want to go simply when I go. Oh, they'll give me a simple funeral there, I know. I'll lie there in the sand with piping tapes of bellygram. Oh, take me when I'm gone to Forest Lawn. Rock of Ages, cleft for me, for a slightly higher fee. Oh, take me when I'm gone to Forest Lawn.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Paul. That was fantastic, as usual. So this is the time in our program where we ask for the assemblers to share a personal moment out of their life. This can be anything, and we've heard a lot of different stories, some of them funny, some of them very poignant, some of them extremely sad. Today, for our death assembly, our speaker today is a personal moment from Mr. Gabriel Mason. Gabriel?
Testing. Okay. Dearly beloved, I've gathered here together to celebrate this thing called life. Electric word life, that means forever, and it's a mighty long time. Rest in purple, Prince. I used to work at Forest Lawn, actually. I started working there in the mid-'90s, and I've worked at several different places since as an embalmer. Loved the funeral industry. A lot of the stuff in that song is true. A lot of it not so much, but it was a great place to work. Talking in this breakout group kind of ties hand in hand with what I'm going to share, what we want to do when we die, and a lot of stuff that Brian was saying about community involvement. What I've learned mostly is that the funeral service is for the living. It's not for the dead. The dead don't care. It's the living that need to be involved. They need to feel in control because they have lost somebody. And I hate to use that term lost. One of the things I learned in mortuary school, I lost my mother. What, can't find her anywhere? You know, died. They died. They are dead. I kind of found this odd that they taught this in mortuary school because I thought they'd want you to be, walk on eggshells. But no, the people need to start learning that person is dead, that person is gone, they died. Your mother died, your baby died. Seems harsh, but that's the reality. So when a family has somebody in their life that has died, they are spiraling out of control, and they will do anything that they can to regain some of that control. So I'd just like to share a couple of examples. When I worked at Forest Lawn, actually, of family members needing that control to be regained, whatever it took. They can't do anything because their loved one died, is dead. One particular instance, a young man had been killed. I can't remember now exactly the cause of death. He was young, so when somebody young dies, it's usually more traumatic because it's unexpected. I didn't meet with families very much there unless they requested an embalmer for whatever reasons. I also did cosmetics as well, so if there was cosmetic changes that needed to be made, I would be asked to assist the family. So I was asked to assist this particular family, and they were in an uproar because we had not combed this young gentleman's hair. And I looked in the casket, how can I help you? I went to the family. We wore uniforms. We were very professional. Hard to believe for me, but yeah, I was. And this young gentleman had hair maybe a little bit longer than mine. I'm not exaggerating. And so you can imagine what was going through my mind. What the, really? But this family was out of control, meaning not that they were wild and crazy, but they had no control over the fact that their son, their brother, their nephew, whatever, had died. So I looked at the casket and I saw that, there really wasn't any hair to brush, but this family needed to control something. So I said, I'm so sorry, let me help you right away. And I went back to the prep room and I got a brush. I came back into the viewing room and I raked the brush over this young man's stubble. And that completely diffused the situation. The family was relieved because they were able to control that. Another instance, I was called to assist an elderly gentleman that was in a viewing room with his dead wife. He was the only one in the room, and he was just pacing back and forth and breathing hard and just very, very angry. Well, his wife was dead. Of course he was angry. People express grief in different ways. He was expressing his in anger. One of the things that we would do as embalmers when placing a person in a casket is to place them so that they look comfortable. And we want the people to look as natural as possible. We never say lifelike because they are not alive, they are dead. But we want them to look as comfortable and as natural as possible. This particular woman was a little bit large, and she had a button-up shirt, blouse, outfit. And to make her look comfortable, when I had dressed her, I didn't button the very top button because then it would have looked like she was, So I left the top button unbuttoned, and so when I got to the room, I asked this gentleman, excuse me, sir, I'm here to assist you. What seems to be the problem? I was expecting, wrong lipstick color, or, her hair. She didn't wear her hair this way or something. But he just, yelled, don't you people even care? Why didn't you button that top button? It was all about control. As an employee in the funeral industry, you have to realize that none of this is personal. None of this is directed at you as an individual. I can't speak today, sorry. It's about their lack of control and their needing to do something because their loved one is dead. And they will do just one small thing can make the whole difference in the world to them. So again, trying to remind this and not wanting to, fire back at this gentleman. I'm so sorry, sir. Let me help you out. I'll just button her button for you. And I buttoned the button, and to me, she looked horrible with that button because she looked like she was being choked. But again, this completely diffused the situation. He calmed down immediately because he was able to control that one small thing. He couldn't bring his wife back. He couldn't control the fact that she was dead. But because he could control that one small thing, that helped him with his particular grief. So just again, a reminder that all of these traditions that Brian spoke about earlier, all of the stuff is to help the living get through the worst, absolute worst moment of their life. That's it.
Thank you. And thank you for your empathy in that situation. I think that probably helped more than anything else. I met my grandfather on my mother's side and my grandmother on my father's side at approximately the same time in 1960, the year that I was born. My grandfather, Thomas Wesley Bayless, was born in Arkansas in 1917. He was the youngest of 8 boys in a family of 12 children. This isn't their family, but they lived in the hills of Arkansas. They hunted for their food. This is basically how they lived. It was an abusive household. All the boys left the house, leaving just my grandfather there. And at the age of 13, they came and got him, and they took him to Texas. And that was the last time he ever saw his father. My grandmother, Edith Williams, I'm not sure where she was born, but I knew in 1941 that she lived in the desert of Borrego because my father was born there in Coyote Canyon. I don't know if she had any siblings, and nobody in my family would fault me if I were to characterize my grandmother Williams as ornery. My grandfather had a full head of hair and a really wry sense of humor. He didn't tell any jokes. He told one joke. He would tell one joke, and he told it many times. He would say, "You know why Arkansas was the first holy land? Because Noah got on the Arkansas land." And I remembered every time to make sure that he knew it was the first time I heard it. But he had like a sly sense of humor. I remember one time that we were at a family event and there was a bunch of cars there, and I'd just gotten my driver's license. My grandpa drove his truck, my mom drove her car home, and my grandpa let me drive his Ford Fairlane with a Mercury engine, the heaviest engine he could find in it. It was a cherry car. He'd been working on it for years, and he let me drive it. So we were caravanning back towards the house in Chula Vista, and there was 3 cars, my grandpa, my mom, and when we got to the high school, they turned right, and I went straight. And as soon as the high school was blocking my view of them, I was like hell on wheels, checking out what that car could do for 3.5 blocks. And when I got to our street on Cedar Avenue, I got right up to the end of the street, and I went really, really, really slowly down the end of the street so that I got to the driveway just as they were turning the corner. And I drove up, and I parked it in a special spot, and I closed the door. My grandpa came up to me with a crooked smile, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Fast, huh?" I lived down the street from my grandpa Bayless. We were over their house many a times. My grandpa bought us, each of us kids, there's 4 kids in the family, 4 of his grandkids, so he bought us each a cushion. I had an orange cushion. It was to my specification, my favorite color, and we'd put it on the floor and we'd watch slides. And he'd show us the slides. This was my first exposure to the national park system, Yellowstone, Yosemite, Bryce, Zion, Devil's Postpile. But before he showed us those slides, he'd always show us slides of my mom and her sisters when they were young. And we loved those. And we'd sit on the floor and we'd watch these slides, and he would narrate. And of course, we'd fall asleep pretty soon, and that probably was the point of showing the slides so they could have a little adult time, and the pillows too. And for my grandfather, and just if anybody else has this, you can maybe show of hands, because I've always been curious about this. Something that I got from his family, which is a tradition, whatever age you were, we had a lot of birthday parties over there. If you were 6 years old, you'd get swatted on the bottom 6 times, really hard. Boom, 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 and then a pinch to grow an inch. Does anyone else? Okay, good. I thought that was just the hills of Arkansas, but good. I'm glad to know I'm not the only one. Okay. And then another thing we got from my grandfather was, everybody in my family does this, we put peanut butter on our pancakes, peanut butter and syrup. I did not know until I was an adult that anybody did that any other way. My grandma and her husband, my step-grandpa Al, moved and moved and moved, and I only saw them occasionally. I remember that each time I did visit them, though, they had a different dog. So every year, they have a different dog. They had one dog at a time. It'd always be a different dog, many of them Chihuahuas. I'm not sure what they did with them, but I know they moved a lot, and maybe that's why they only had a dog a year. They moved to Hawaii and Wyoming and all over California. And I remember in 1968, they lived in Santa Rosa, and we moved up there for a full year. And I remember the year very well. I remember the school that I went to. I remember Bobby Kennedy getting shot. I remember everything about that neighborhood, but I don't remember my grandmother very much, because we didn't see her that often, even though we lived in the same city. And I remember that she wore a pink smock. I think she worked at the bowling alley, and she had bright red hair, and there was a 5 and dime around the corner. Or she worked at the 5 and dime, and there was a bowling alley around the corner. Though we only had a 2nd grade education. Paul. My grandfather was a construction foreman. He was a patient and affable and very knowledgeable, and he was very much liked by his workers. He was the foreman that was in charge of building Fashion Valley, and he also he laid a lot of the concrete there. He built Buffum's, that was his project, and then he built the first multiplex theater in the entire county, the Fashion Valley 4, which at the time was amazing. It was like 4 theaters showing, 4 movies showing at the same time. It was incredible. You couldn't believe it, and it was exciting. And before that, in the county, you would pay 1 ticket. You see 2 movies, a cartoon, maybe a feature, and you could stay there all day if you wanted. Some of you will remember this, but which is why later my friends and I came to view the Fashion Valley 4 as a ripoff. But I remember the day that they opened this thing, the snack bar was free, and I saw the other side of the mountain, and I remember that best as the day that I was absolutely deathly sick of Jordan almonds. My grandmother adopted a baby boy when I was 11, so I remember that was my Uncle John, this baby that I was looking at, and I remember the whole family was there, and I remember that everybody was very happy, and that was the last time I saw her for many, many years. My grandfather hired me as soon as I was old enough to work. I mowed his lawn and I'd taken their trash out and he'd give me a little bit of money, but he hired me to work at his job sites, trenching out sprinklers with a little 4-foot shovel and digging out water meter boxes and sweeping and landscaping. And we drove to work together and he paid me under the table, so I spent a lot of time with him. But when I was in college, he got me this job guarding the work sites when they were terracing them. So basically I was paid to guard dirt, which was an excellent job for a college student because I could study all night, and then when I got sleepy, I could set the alarm clock for early in the morning, and as long as the dirt was still there, and I woke up before the instruction crew got there, I was golden. I saw my grandmother for the rest of her life only occasionally, and she died last year at the age of 90. My grandfather died in 1991 of prostate cancer. Sorry. He was hallucinating for a solid month before he died. He'd been given morphine, and he kept continually being worried about this leak in between the end of the house and this covered patio and the garage. He was just worried about this leak continually, and he would hallucinate and worry about this leak. And I have no skills for construction whatsoever, but I learned how to reshingle that part of the roof, and I think in his last days it was really helpful for him to hear me up there working, and it gave him some peace of mind. Sorry. He died in the hospital not very much longer than that, and he was emaciated and thin, and his thin skin was pulled over his skull, and all of his full head of hair was gone. And I stroked his head just before he died, and I told him that I loved him. I traveled to Omaha, Nebraska last year to drive my father back from his from his mom's funeral. After the funeral, my Uncle John, my Uncle David, and some of the family members and a couple of the neighbors were in the garage talking. And we talked, just catching up, general words of the day, and I noticed right away that nobody was sharing any stories about my grandmother or talking about her at all. And I felt sad. And I felt sad that I didn't feel sad. After my grandfather died, we told a bunch of stories, and we cried, and we laughed. We laughed a lot more than we cried. I tell you these stories because I felt for a long time that the wealth, and maybe even more so at this age, because I've thought about it more, the wealth that people accumulate in their life doesn't have to do with the material things that they accumulate. The wealth in life is the connections that they make with other people, the communities that we participate in and create, the help that we give and accept from other people. My grandfather was not a perfect man. He had the racial biases of people of his age. He was intolerant of hippies. And on the day that my nephew, my cousin, drove him and two of his friends drunk driving in the back of a flatbed pickup and killing all of them, that morning he used it to soapbox preach to all of us about the evils of drinking and driving, and I hated him on that day. But my grandfather, by this measure, died a wealthy person, and I'm wealthier for having known him. And my grandmother died a pauper, and I'm poorer for not having developed a relationship with her. And I've always felt that these things are not an accumulation at the end of your life. It's what we do every day. It's the connections that we make with people every day. That's all you have. Just one last note. The roof still leaks at my grandpa's house. Paul, thank you very much for accompanying me. And now, as we do, we'll spend 1 minute in silent reflection. Thank you. I always love to hear the kids in the background, especially on that death assembly. Okay, so now for some announcements. A little change of pace there. If I can get the people that are making announcements to come up. Remember, we're trying to keep these succinct. Don't make us play the Oscar music that gets you off the stage, please. So nice and quick. And we are going to start with Neil Hemovich and Brendan Bartnick.
I like how you said the succinct thing, and mine's probably going to be the longest. Oh, well.
That's why we're starting with it.
Yeah. So he's here for the folksy, southern, howdy y'all kind of stuff, if you want to start with that.
Southern folksy, howdy y'all.
And I got the details. So this coming Saturday, for those of you who've been coming to the Assemblies or seen it online, we've been announcing the crawfish boil. Just to give some of you that don't know the information, crawfish are those little guys.
Yay big.
It's kind of like peel and eat shrimp. If you guys have never had crawfish, like about that big, and you crack them open, and it's about 5 minutes of work for one little piece of food. But it's really good. It's really worth it. Plus there's corn and potatoes, and it's $30 all you can eat, and $40 for all you can drink beer on top of the all you can eat food.
Till we run out.
Till we run out. It's going to be at the Kearney Mesa Rec Center, and all the literature says that it starts at 1. We're going to start serving the food at 1. So if you guys want to get there, it's a park, hang out. There's going to be lawn games and stuff. Probably as early as about 12 o'clock. We are stopping the ticket sales this Tuesday, though, because we have to order the crawfish from Louisiana. Live. So if you want to come, get your tickets. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have 10 tickets the day of, right? 5 tickets the day of. So that's non-negotiable. If you guys want to come, get them before Tuesday. I'm missing anything important? You can order them on the computer in the back.
Yes, come on back to the merch table. We're going to have them for sale. My father just texted me yesterday the results of the crawfish boil that he held in East Texas, and they look really good this year. I think it's going to be awesome.
All right.
I'll come on in.
Hello, my name is Dan. I'm going to be hosting some outdoor activities in the near future. Our next event is going to be in Balboa Park on May 7th at 9 a.m. For anybody who's new, these are going to be great events to get out in a smaller group and meet the other assemblers in a smaller setting. I personally went to 3 or 4 meetup events before my first assembly, so I already had familiar, friendly faces when I came to my first one. We'll be doing bike rides, walks, hikes, so it'd be great for anybody to come out and join us for that. You can find more information on meetup.com, and you can find the address for that in the back afterwards. Thank you.
So if you like the idea of that, but of meeting up with the Sunday assemblers for events, but you want to do something else, like go to a sports ball event, I probably won't attend that, or comedy, go to see a movie together, we have a new Facebook group that you can post last minute events that you'd like to go to so that people can join you. That's all.
So I work for a really large wholesale company in San Diego, the assistant GM, and I've been administering through them a reading program which is designed for children that are in 1st through 4th grade. The 1st and 2nd graders that are advanced readers would benefit from this program, and the 3rd and 4th graders that are struggling would benefit from this program. This is I have a table in the back if you're interested in doing it. It's a 10-hour commitment. It's 45 minutes, 10 times. The kids get a Smensel, which is a smelly pencil, and everything's in the box right here. You also get this handy-dandy little Costco tutoring tote bag. So if you have a child that's this summer needs some help reading and you want to help mentoring, this could be your grandchild or a niece or nephew or your own child, please stop back and see me. I'd love to give you these. I've been authorized by Costco Wholesale to provide these to anyone who wants them. Thanks.
All right, did anybody here come to the winter solstice party that we had? Awesome. So we're also going to have a summer solstice party on the 18th of June, and this is going to be really chill, despite it being in summer rather than winter. At the Deanza Cove, it's a potluck and jam session, so bring your instruments and we will have a great time.
I did forget one important detail. Vegan tickets, $20 if you don't want crawfish and you just want the corn and potatoes. We got those.
And one last order of business. Sunday Assembly is run entirely by volunteers. It's a not-for-profit organization. We really appreciate your donations. A reoccurring donation in any amount helps us do what we do here, and we really appreciate you doing that. I will turn you once again over to the inimitable Paul Svensson.
Some things in life are bad. They can make you really mad. Others make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's gristle, come on now, give a whistle. And this'll help things turn out for the best, as everybody is standing up as you are able or feel like it. And if you don't, it's okay to stay sitting, because it doesn't really matter. But always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life. If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, oh, don't be silly chumps. Just purse your lips and whistle, that's the thing. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life. For life is quite absurd, and death's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow. Forget about your sin, give the audience a grin. Enjoy it, it's your last chance anyhow. Ain't always look on the bright side of death. Just before you draw your terminal breath. 'Cause life's a piece of shit, oh, when you look at it. It's true. You'll see it's all a show, so leave them laughing when you go. Just remember that the last laugh is on you. And always look on the bright side of life. Let's kick it up a notch. Oh, always look on the bright side of life. Can you clap? Always look on the light side of life. Sing it again now. Here we go. And always look on the bright side of life. One more. Always look on the light side of life.
Everybody, coffee, tea, and snacks in the back. Pizzicato, we meet after the assembly, so if you want to come after the snacks and have some pizza with us, it's 2 blocks over and 1 block to the right. Thank you very much. We'll hope to see you at the next Sunday Assembly.
Yeah, you know, we're gonna have a little fun here. Thank you. What's your name? Hey, Mimi. Paul. Nice to meet you. Thanks, I appreciate that.